Welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. This is the Witches Movie Coven. Witches talking about witches in movies. So grab something to drink, grab your magic wand, and maybe a cloak or two on this one, because we are going to talk about the movie Little Witches. My name is Patti Negri, and I am one of your 5, 4, sometimes 7 hosts. They come, they go, depending on internet. You might know me from The Witching Hour, my regular podcast, or from Ghost Adventures or Portals to Hell, or a lot of YouTube. But right now, right here, I am a witch in the Honorable Witches Movie Coven. Richard-Lael, who are you?
I am Richard-Lael, which is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I'd be a... Yes, that is right. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. I am the gentleman psychic. I am a teacher at University Magicus. You probably seen me on Ghost Adventures, or maybe a long time ago, America's Next Top Model. I don't know. I've done a lot of stuff. I decorate things. I create things. I paint them. I drink a lot of tea. That's, why I'll probably run to the loo, skip to the loo, my darling, pretty soon.
Thank you. Jason.
I'm Jason. You probably don't know me from any TV show other than this, but I have written a lot of books. Here's one of them, because it happened to be nearby. That's a book about you. I've written 9 books for Llewellyn, and I'm often on the road speaking at witchcraft and pagan festivals across North America. Woo!
Thank you. And Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Greene. I'm the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, a definitive guide to witches in American cinema and television. I am an acquisitions editor at Llewellyn, so I work with the authors like Jason and other many witchy authors. And I was also a journalist who focuses on the occult and witchcraft and all things in between. And I am also a part of this wonderful coven.
And we are very, very opinionated. Oh, and here she goes, Gigi. She may be flipping in and out depending on internet, but we have a very, very special guest replacing Courtney just for today. Is Gigi. Tell everybody hi and who you are.
Hi, everybody. I am Gigi from Paranormal XL Podcast and Killer Kitchen Chronicles. I'm just a little bit of everywhere.
And that's it. So we are talking about, thank you. Hi, Gigi, everybody's saying. The movie, Little Witches, I just saw it for the first time last night or the night before, I can't remember. Was it 1996 on that one?
It was.
Now, maybe not everybody's seen it. Hopefully all of you who watch our show regular. Number one, we want to thank you for watching to our show and telling your friends and coming back the week after week. We appreciate it, because otherwise we'd just be here talking to ourselves with our goats in hand, sad story without you, like Colin and Amy and Mary and Robert. Okay, anyway, this movie, I'd never seen it before, 1996. But if any of you perhaps haven't seen it, Richard-Lael, do you have an unbiased synopsis of this fine?
I do. And I'm going to start with the boring one, because I watched it and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I looked up this on Wikipedia, and it said, an ancient book lures 6 young girls into becoming witches and casting spells. That's the cut and dry version. It's so that's not the movie I watched. The movie I watched, well, it was softcore. I will not say the rest of it. It was definitely softcore. It has everything that you would desire in one of those softcore films. It has the girl that is naughty, who, by the way, is a high school girl. It has the crazy nun. It has the demented priest. It has the boy who's a virgin. It has the young innocent girl who rescues everybody. It has demons. It has ancient guardians. It has half-naked men and a lot of naked women. Something about trying to throw the book in the sea, as if even in 1996 he had never known, oh, we're gonna burn the Ouija board, and then it comes back the next day. Yeah, like none of this exists in this universe. I'm still scratching my head over it. It's definitely witches, but I think I should say some of these ladies are not witches. Some of these ladies, one would be referred to with a different word, but that word is not used in polite society unless one is at a dog show. And that's all I have on that.
Thank you. And now we understand this film. Heather, I do believe this one may be in your book.
It is sort of, it's mentioned, but it's a Canadian, mainly a Canadian film. So I really don't focus on it, but I do mention it for an important reason, similar to the way I mentioned Harry Potter and several other fully American films, because it has a tie-in to one of the biggest American witchcraft films, The Craft. And so there's some interesting facts about that. So Little Witches came out in 1996, which if you've read my book or heard me talk about the 90s, that was a watershed year for the switchover from the Satanic Panic witch films to the You Go Girl witch films of the late 90s. So this sort of fits into that, the Craft, where it's that 1996 where you get a little of both. You get the same You Go Girl stuff going on, and you get it nicely dosed with this Satanic Panic stuff. Now, obviously, this one has more Satanic Panic than You Go Girl than The Craft does. It also had a much lower budget. So a lot of people have said that this movie is a poor follow-up to The Craft, or they were trying to capitalize on The Craft. It came out 7 months after The Craft was released. However, that is not the case, because this film was actually in production and written before The Craft, long before The Craft came out. So there was a coincidence in terms of the creation of the story and the wanting to film it. It would not have been unusual for people to want to do satanic teenage witch films at this time. So it's not that much of a stretch to understand that. But they do say, and there's multiple reports from the producers and the other people involved, that the film actually was it was wrapped. They were done filming before The Craft came out. And then when The Craft came out, they were in post and actually worked to edit the film. The producers worked to edit the film to capitalize on the popularity of The Craft. So it wasn't created based on The Craft, but it actually capitalized on the success, or tried to capitalize on the success. It came out, of course, 7 months later. A few other notes about this film that are interesting is that the director has disowned it, saying up to what she wanted. And of course, she is important, because many witchcraft films are not actually done, until more recently, directed by women. So that's an interesting piece of this. The final cut, the editor actually quit or was fired halfway through, and they got a makeshift editor, or associate editor, or some kind of helper to edit the film. What was that?
You couldn't even tell.
They got an editor off of Craigslist?
Yeah, if Craigslist didn't exist back then. But yes, they got an editor, and the producers pretty much ran the show as far as the editing was concerned. And of course, they were trying to make it compete with The Craft, or to capitalize on the success of The Craft. I read one article that the guy said that The Craft was an expensive copy of Little Witches, actually. So you see some different things, and I think of what Richard-Lael was picking up on there is not so much soft core, but I think if the early 70s witch films and the late 90s You Go Girl witch films had a love child, it would be this film. I think that's the best way to describe it. There is actually a pretty decent cast in it that you will recognize some figures, some characters. There's Zelda Rubinstein, Clea Duvall, and Jack Nance, and a few other folks that you might recognize. So it's not low budget, but it's not totally low budget. So it's a very interesting one to talk about. And I think it's a very interesting one to talk about, since it's poised right at the time when things were changing for representation of witchcraft and witches in films. So this is why this film becomes important. So I'll leave it at that, and we can start discuss. I'll save my opinions and stories and all of that good stuff for later.
Let's just hope that the director's cut is
There is
released at some point.
There is no,
because
done.
I am
There's
sure
no
that
director's
her
cut.
vision is incredible, and that it would be an entirely different film, and probably a cinematic masterpiece that we have been deprived of. Just sadness. The whole show will now be sadness on my part. Sadness.
There is no director's cut. She is turned away from it. There's no director's cut. There's not even an editor's director's cut. There's not even. It's the producers. These two young guys that.
That explains it.
You can let me hope, Heather. Let me hope.
You know what? You can. If Courtney can dream about a second Killing Tree movie, then you can dream about a director's cut for Little Witches.
So when did the director leave? Does anybody know? Was it like after shooting or when they saw the edit?
She didn't leave. She didn't leave. She's just disavowed it. So she's just said they just took over and I'm done. They didn't. This is what, I had to read 4 or 5 different articles. I'd have to get back and we'd have to dig into the production notes and stuff to find out what happened. But apparently she and the producers did not get along right from the start. There's some stories. The actors say they won't talk about what happened. So this is, many years later, we'd have to do some deep dive journalism to find out exactly what happened. But it seems like the producers and director didn't get along right from the beginning. And the producers are the ones who wrote the script. She had a different division, and it all went crazy from there.
Hopefully being on our show will reignite interest in this masterpiece. And so we will get closer to that director's cut. People will start talking about the movie again. And then we'll have like a sequel, maybe older witches or middle-aged witches or something. Just to see where everything ends up.
I'm all for the middle-aged witches. They're see all their breasts have fallen. The beautiful naked young breasts have fallen. Mm-hmm. Just no more rock hard bosoms. It was pretty though. It was pretty. It was beautiful. I especially liked the construction workers. I thought they were very pretty. They were beautiful. Yeah. Take off your shirt again. Take off your shirt again. In there. I already had it on, but I'm going to take off my shirt again. I love that. Yeah, they were beautiful, and the girls were beautiful. I did think that all the ritual scenes, which were pretty and this and that and weirdly cut, but I kept going, I think they already played that one. I think that I saw that 3 times already. Is this on a loop? We just gone back and did it again. That's what it felt like to me. It
seems like there was a couple scenes like that.
Yeah.
That there definitely were. And then at the beginning, of course, I'm like, okay, everybody in the house, we need to watch this movie. Okay, kids in the house, out. I was like, okay, not a family movie. Sorry. Of course, my 16-year-old was like, Mom. I'm like, no. That's Mommy's doing research.
Because these girls are supposed to be what, 16 or 17 years old? Yeah. They're little girls.
Hopefully they're 18. This is their senior year, right? I mean, it is Easter. So if it's their senior year, they could be very close to being all 18. And let's hope so. Because I despise like naked high schoolers in films. That's gross, especially by 1996.
It's gross.
Yeah.
I was nowhere near 18 when I graduated. I didn't jump. You're just still 17. I was early 17.
That was a January birthday. Mm-hmm. I assume everyone's my age.
Well, then the construction worker
during this. Go ahead, Gigi.
Sorry. Wasn't the construction worker wasn't he supposed to be so much older? And they turned down the one gal and was like, no, my little sister does that. And then the other gal that's the same age goes there, Faith, and then all in love, and he's supposed to be old and she's supposed to be 16. And as I was kind of like, what's happening here? At first, the age thing was a no, and then all of a sudden it was okay.
it's
Well, it's
okay
because
because they're Catholic
sweet.
schoolgirls
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. Yes,
with
you're right.
male producers. It's like in the gay world, if it would have been produced by gay men, then it would have been a bunch of Mormons at a Mormon school, because that's like that has replaced the Catholic school in choreography. It's replaced.
I
Just
just love you.
to respond to Sacred and Alone, yes, this was Clea Duvall's first film. It was her film debut. So there's that.
Yeah, I
And
couldn't
which
even
one?
figure out who she was in the movie. I mean, there are a bunch of characters running around, but most of them feel nameless. Like there's good girl, bad girl,
Chubby
people
girl.
who work at school. I mean, that felt like those were the only names to me.
She was the first one that gets stabbed by the demon.
Oh, okay. That's
That
why.
helps at all.
Yeah. Fair.
She shows up. Her face is seen more at the beginning of the film than it does at, because yeah, you're right. As it goes along, they spend less time identifying the characters, talking. They don't really get into the characters at all. It's very surface character stuff going on throughout the film. It's just the narrative and the plot that they focus on. It's just, that's all it is. So you don't really see the faces. One of the girls doesn't even have a line in the film. All her lines were cut apparently, or something like that. One blonde girl. So.
But don't you find it strange too? I mean, even in 1996, I know computers were more rare in 1996, but the naughty, hopefully 18-year-old bride of Satan, she asks to borrow the nerdy girl's computer, and she's like, "What for?" And she's like, "Just stuff." Okay. I mean, if someone wanted to borrow my computer, I'd go, no.
And she takes it down to the ritual site too, like it's a laptop. And all I can think of from 1996 are like those candy-colored Macs back in the day that were huge.
Yes.
Like I can imagine, like, let's get the wheelbarrow out and go see Satan down there, right? And then we can use the computer while we're there.
But it was made in 96, so it wasn't like it was made in 2006 trying to be 96. So they must have known what computers were in 96.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you knew,
They had a laptop.
But even if you had a laptop, I think in 96 it had to be, you had to connect it to the internet of some sort, right? Like you had it like a cable, right?
Right.
You
It wouldn't
know,
be
The Ethernet.
wouldn't be Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or anything.
It would have been a
like
phone cable.
Yeah.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yep.
Dial up.
Yeah, and Bing didn't even exist back then. That's how long ago this movie was.
No. There was no Google back then. This was 96, so probably, I'm trying to think, because I worked in technology back then. I can't remember which was the search engines. It was Yahoo,
Netscape.
Probably Netscape, and what's the first one? I can picture it, but I can't think of the name right now. But yeah, this was before Google, before all of that.
AOL.
Excite, Ask Jeeves,
Yeah,
Lycos. Oh, the
Lycos.
wreckage of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that was that. But they had a laptop. They had a lot of interesting things going on. I think as there's a lot of problems with this movie, obviously, that we're talking about. But I think there's some interesting things too. And I'm going to just say is that I saw this movie when it came out. So probably on VHS. I was in school, and this movie was one of the movies that made me realize that I needed to start studying witches in film, because I had started practicing and getting involved in the occult several years earlier in college, obviously, like many people's stories. And it hadn't been that long. And so I was really, very interested in everything witchcraft. So watching a movie like this was exciting, despite the fact that it portrays witches as agents of the devil. It's not a positive representation of witches. But between
I'm
this
an agent of the devil.
Yeah, but a positive one, Richard-Lael. I see you as a positive agent of the devil.
That is also true.
So, I know that's a nuance that maybe people don't appreciate, but I do. So, but this was fascinating to me, and being in film school at the time, and between this film and The Craft, and then the start of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Charmed, and just start rolling in that direction, I realized this is what I want to study. I want to study these representations, and why is this film different than The Craft? And what makes this film different from this? So this really started to pique my brain in understanding the sociology and the history and witchcraft and everything. So as problematic as it is, this film for me was something that started me down a certain path. So that's how I look at it. And I didn't mind it when I watched it originally. I thought it was, oh, this is fun. This is like a stupid fun movie. Like rewatching it again, I laughed. I was like, oh my goodness, I remember this so well now. So
I'm just glad that like one good thing came out of this film, and that is Heather's love of witch movies and desire to study them. That is the one good thing that has come out of this film.
And you know what? How many witch movies do we see that have naked bodies in them, that have a naked body that doesn't fit the norm? They actually filmed the larger girl naked, which never ever happens.
Sort of. If you watch closely, not that I watch that closely, all of her like really private parts are covered up the whole time. Like they don't linger on her, and that she was shot in such a way that there is no nipple. Because I thought that was really fascinating that there was a different sized woman there. So that's where my eye went the whole time, because I wanted to see if they were going to be honest about it. And I'm not sure that they completely were. Or perhaps she could have had something in her contract that said, no, I don't want to do that. Right. But how she is portrayed is kind of hidden, even though she's in the naked scenes.
So I must say, and I liked having a naked bigger girl and showing it too, but they did very stereotypical open her up in the beginning. I didn't like that just cliche stereotypical, I ate pancakes, I ate this. It's like, I didn't think that was necessary.
No.
If that's her character development, because not like The Craft, where The Craft, you kind of got to know the girls along the way. This one, except for the
little known fact, that the character of Fat Amy in the Pitch Perfect movies is based on this character from Little Witches. Just throwing that out there. That's 100% completely true. Just gonna throw that out there.
She's a great character. 100% true.
100% true. One of the differences between The Craft is you'd actually get a good character. There is no character development in this movie. There really isn't. Even the main characters. That's not what this movie is. This movie is directly aiming for that plot, the salaciousness of it, and so diving into that fear and riding on the fear that teenagers are being seduced by witchcraft and Satanism. And that is the driving point of this, and to use every single trope that the misogynistic types of horror use, throwing it all in there and mixing it up and throwing it back out at the screen. Was the director, did they film something different? Would the director's cut be different? Would it be more like The Craft? I don't know that it would have been, because the story's different. There was not, as far as I know, a witch on the scene like the witch. The Craft aimed for some reality with Wicca, some attachment, some connection to it. This one does not at all. They use salt for like 2 seconds.
Well, Zelda Rubinstein's door had salt outside of it.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
So there was,
and they call themselves the Illuminati. So clearly, witchcraft, magic, Illuminati, naked high school girls. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they would have been college, they have college class? It would have been less weird. College naked girls, because they were beautiful scenes. I like naked girls, but you don't want to go, I'm liking a 16-year-old naked girl.
Nope.
No.
No.
Nope. Like I said, 70s horror, B horror, and 90s you go girl horror, have a love child. This is what you get. Do y'all know what I mean by the 90s you go girl witch movies? There's a string of them, and then the craft starts it. So include the mostly TV shows. Charmed. It's all upper middle class, pretty white girls doing witchcraft type thing. Buffy the Vampire Slayer fits in there, of course. There's a number of them. Witch House, I think. Yeah.
Sabrina, the original one.
Sabrina. It's just a string of them. Yeah.
I tell you, though, there were so many plot holes that if this film had a slightly higher rating, all of the plot holes would be filled.
Oh, holy crap. That can't be topped the rest of the night. Thanks for watching the Witches Movie Coven. We will see you next week.
Did nobody see this when it came out?
No.
Wow. How was it on my radar? I mean, I don't remember it being hidden, or it was just like going to the, video rental store and there it was.
No, I
No.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was a witch. I didn't go, and I like witchy movie, but that one got past me.
I didn't go into that room in the video store, Heather. I just didn't.
It was in the normal. It's rated R.
I actually did. I remember going to Blockbuster, and I liked horror. I didn't watch this film, but it would have been around the time that it came out, 96, 97. And I went to get a film that was called Head of the Family. Do not watch that film. This is like The Witch from the Sea for Courtney. Head of the Family is it's like this film. It's like tonight's film, only worse. So Head of the Family is. So they existed, Heather. They up and down those same aisles. You and I, we were on the same page.
Yeah, it was just a witch film on the aisle. I probably rented The Craft and then saw that one and looked for other ones that are just like it. And this one came out, and it's interesting that they were timed so closely. But again, this one has the residue of the Satanic Panic on it far more than The Craft does. Although The Craft has a little bit still, but not like this one.
When you put the two movie posters up against each other, The Craft and this movie, you can really see how The Craft impacted the marketing, because she looks like the girl from Little Witches, almost looks like Fairuza Balk or something.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, when I saw that graphic for the first time, I thought, oh, it's from The Craft and not from a different movie, because they really seem to be really trying to steal that whole aesthetic there. Though the picture in the little bottom left-hand corner looks like the pictures that you would see on the covers of the movies in that little back room. It's just a little too scantily clad there.
And there are a number of those. And there's another movie, it's in 2002, I want to say 2003, called Witches of the Caribbean. Has anyone seen that one? No. Okay. You don't have to give it all big eyes or anything. These is also teenagers that they're lost in a special school stuff, and they're left, and they get into they get into witchcraft. And then they all change their dress at some point when they all get involved and do their first rituals on the beach. Beaches are in all these movies. And then they're walking down the beach. It's right out of The Craft. Right out.
I will say that this film in particular had a lot of beaches. a lot of young beaches. It certainly did.
I found the school's proximity to water strange, to be honest, because you looked at the school and the outside shots, and it didn't look like anything that would be near an ocean. And then apparently the ocean is about 50 feet away, which would have been like really prime property, right?
Nice.
Like you'd be selling that and like retiring somewhere. It was really odd. I thought that the ocean was there.
I thought what was odd was that whenever they show the internal parts of the church and the church's office. There are stained glass windows everywhere, and it's midnight, or it's dark outside, and then you have all of this beautiful refracted light coming through all of these stained glass windows from every single angle, and it's midnight.
It's
So
pretty.
yeah.
It's pretty.
So they didn't do the establishing shot, and they failed on correcting the lighting to match the time of day. So okay.
And doesn't the movie end during the day, which is a weird time for a witchcraft movie to end? There's a lot going on in the full sunlight, which made it look like a kind of a dirty after-school special in its own way. Today on ABC, the dangers of witchcraft and the Illuminati. You know,
It's dirty. I did get
Oh my
confused.
gosh.
Again, I was tired. I kept wanting to falling asleep and going, no, stay awake. I have to watch it. But the plot line, because of it, the one with the mark. Again, I was trying to find the story of the girl with the mark. Oh, the lady had the mark. And then all of a sudden at the end of the film, my people have been protecting. What? I didn't get. I still didn't get that.
It was very choppy.
Did she know she was that person? Did not none? I don't know.
Yeah. Poor editing to tell the story. Poor editing to tell the story. For
Clearly,
sure.
it was none of our business.
But I liked the nun, though. I did. I mean, I liked her.
Well, I think we could talk about her. I mean,
Yeah.
Zelda Rubinstein is something special. This is actually not the first witch film she was in. She was in 1989. She was in Teen Witch, which is another fun teenage witch story, totally different type, but also a satanic panic, an early satanic panic one. We can watch that one and see if we like that one at some point. There's no nudity in that one. That one is
Damn.
family friendly, so your family can watch it. It's more like Karate Kid, except a witch instead of a karate expert. But she was in that one, and she was the witch expert who consults, and she is brilliant in that one. She does a beautiful job, and of course, she's Poltergeist. That's where everybody knows her. I think she's scared all of us kids.
She's so wasted in this movie. I mean, she has about 8 minutes of screen time, and when I was a kid, I found her absolutely terrifying in the Poltergeist movies, right? And I just didn't feel like they did anything with her of any value or consequence, right? She eats food alone, and she did something weird in the church one night, maybe, kind of. And then she prays with a girl, and that's it, and then she's done.
Yeah. And that's another point that suggests that the producer didn't cut the film properly, because why would you have her and some of these other actors if you were going to produce a film like this? It makes no sense. I mean, that had to be their whole budget.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it certainly wasn't spent on the demon.
We had dry ice. I kept thinking that when talking about the location and this beautiful old church and building, I'm like, oh, they're in Santa Barbara, which is like a super expensive part of just above LA, because that's the only place that a cool old building, Spanish, whatever building would be on the beach. So this is a high-end church and school.
Well, you would think so. Those girls are living there. It's a private school, so it's got to be something that is considered high end, and they have wealthy parents. And they're all abused. There's something wrong with them. That's the same as the craft. There's a reason that they're there, and there's a reason why they turn to magic. You have that scenario playing out, but it's undercut by the rest of it. It's undercut by the amount of nudity. It's undercut by the bad cuts, the poor storytelling, but they all have struggle with something. And that's, of course, lost.
I thought this was like a cheap school because I could only see 3 employees there the entire time.
That's true.
That's because
where's the staff? Who's cooking dinner? Like, what's going on? Is there a maintenance crew or anything? Who are the teachers? There's nothing. 3 people run that whole school.
Well, it was spring break, wasn't it? It was, so everybody else.
Yeah, Easter break or whatever.
Should still be some people around. Got to have somebody there.
It's just wasn't our business.
None of your business. That's
None
right.
of our business.
There was a lot of haughty construction workers not doing a lot of work. except taking off their shirts.
Taking off the shirts is hard work. Catcalling at a minor is hard work. Oogling a minor, taking her clothes off on a balcony is hard work. Turning up the radio, that must have been extraneous.
Yeah. Dancing, they danced.
One of those construction workers, though, said he was going to Stanford, though, too. So, like, he can't work too hard because apparently his night job is driving up to the Bay Area from Santa Barbara and going to Stanford in between his construction job.
So
it doesn't leave you a lot of time to date. It's tough. It's a tough job. Tough work.
One of the reviews and the discussions on this film that talked about it noted that the director, the one who's disavowed the film, was actually a music video director in the 80s. And they said one of the music videos he directed was "I Feel for You" by
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan, thank you. I'm like picturing her. She's a Shaka Khan "I Feel for You" video was one of her credits. So they said that this one reviewer said that the movie has points where it feels like a music video. I don't know if anybody picked up on that.
It was very much like a music video. Yes. It reminded me so much of "Turn Around." Every now and then. Yeah. Yes. It reminded me very much of that music video. Excepting, again, they were girls and not boys because, heterosexual fantasies.
Can we talk about the music in this movie for a while? Because it is the worst music I've ever heard in a movie.
Right.
The background music is terrible. The pop songs felt like they had stolen them from online, but online didn't exist yet. So I assume somebody gave them a tape while they were walking somewhere, and they were like, "Oh, let's put this in there." It's really like laughably bad all the way through. Like they didn't want to license anything that was worth, more than 50 cents.
And not the rapper, by the by. They couldn't afford 50 cent.
Oh. Like if they had gone downstairs, though, into the Illuminati room and Into Club had started playing, though, I would have totally freaked out. That would have made a great movie,
It would have spiced it up a little better.
That would have been baller. That would have been baller.
Most definitely.
Yeah, the music, when you said we got to talk about the music for a few minutes, I'm like, there was music? Why?
That.
It was so bad, and it was so poorly mixed, too. It was like hard to hear what the actors were saying at certain points because the music was like louder than they were. It did, again, it felt like an after-school special or straight to VHS movie, which it was, I think, right? Or was it in a theater?
You know what? I think it was in the theater, but not for long. And I tried to get the numbers on this film, but they aren't appearing easily. And I was going to have to do some deeper research to get the numbers on the box offices. And I just felt like I wasn't going to bother. So yeah, I believe usually it's reported as being a direct to VHS, and this one isn't reported as that. I did not see this I did see it when it came out. I did not see it in the theaters. I know it came from coming from a Blockbuster or the before Blockbusters. Do you remember when there was a time when they were mom and pop shops and they do 5 for $5? I loved for 5 for $5, guys. I would go $5. I get 5 movies. This probably was one of them. I grabbed 5 movies, and that would be my weekend. I know you guys are thinking, that's what you did on the weekends? I was a film nerd. Yes, that's what I did on the weekends. This was probably one of those. 5 for $5.
Or as a Canadian movie, maybe it only played in Canada for a week or two or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah. But it's but it's poor. Like it just, you compare this to The Craft, right? From earlier in the year. The characters are developed. It looks good. It sounds great. The Craft has an amazing soundtrack. It looks good. These movies are night and day different.
Yes.
Night and day different.
The Craft is brilliant. And this one is Kraft.
I think that is an insult to Velveeta cheese, to be honest.
Yeah, this one is definitely not gonna win any awards, but it actually did win an award, but I can't remember what it is. But regardless, what was I gonna say? The Craft, I did not love The Craft when it came out, and we've talked about The Craft many times, and it is a centerpiece in witchcraft films for sure in so many ways. But I really felt like The Craft started out really well, and then it went downhill towards the end, and I really was very disappointed with the ending of The Craft in a lot of the aspects and some of the filming and the way The Craft went at the end. And I know that's sacrilege to say amongst witches, because that's like, you know, the golden movie we all hold up, but I did not like the ending of The Craft. So I didn't like Hocus Pocus either. So I say that out loud.
I never watched The Craft.
Oh,
Really?
Oh, see, you beat me right there.
I've never.
But you watch this.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. You got to watch it. You just have to watch. You have to watch it. It's just a standby. It's a standard bearer. It's a centerpiece of all of witch films. It's one of the ones that I would say if I was to do a seminar in witch films, this would be The Craft would be on it. And I'd probably actually mention Little Witches mention Little Witches and Witches. Now, Jason's shaking his head, and I will say this over and over again. You got to watch bad ones to know it's good. And that is why in watching what The Craft did and how it relates to other films and how people copied them. And that's how important The Craft was. Little Witches changed its marketing and changed its editing to try to play off of that. Witches of the Caribbean is not a good film, but it tried to do that.
But when you say the names of these films, you give them power. And sometimes it's best for things to be forgotten.
I don't think this needs to be. I don't agree with you when it comes to bad actors in politics. I completely agree with you, Jason, or in any social situation. But when it comes to film, I don't agree. I think it's really, really good to watch bad films. I think it's good to see art, because sometimes you like a bad piece of art you like a piece of art other people don't like. I don't like Time Bandits. I think Time Bandits is terrible, and Patti loves it. I would rather watch Little Witches than Time Bandits.
Oh, I think you're right. I would too. That is so true.
I didn't love this, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it.
That is a step.
I didn't mind it because, again, it was pretty. When she got past the high school, it was pretty. I liked the pretty ritual scene. So except for that, again, I think they repeated the same scene a few times. Other than that, I didn't mind it. All right. Anybody else have anything to say about this fabulous film? The music discussion went long. No.
See, I watched it twice.
Oh,
and I did that because I thought I may have missed something. Because I'm like, well, wait a minute, because I know my attention span doesn't last very long, but I'm like, okay, let's do this. And like Patti mentioned, it seemed like they were repeating scenes, so like the choppiness, so that like messed me up. So I'm like, no, now I have to rewatch this, and like I'm trying to get quotes, and I'm like, I got nothing. There's nothing quotable to requote from this movie, in my opinion. Like, as I was like, well, the one thing, like Faith said, I don't know where I belong. We've all been able to say that. So, okay, that's relatable. And then the other funny one was Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Like, that's, I'm like, okay. But yes, I did. I sat down and I watched it twice. And I didn't miss anything the first time. The second time,
I feel like you deserve an award or something for watching this twice. That is above and beyond. I mean, there are people in this coven who don't even finish some of these films. So I bow to you and your greatness.
Exactly. Huh.
I saw it twice too, Gigi, but I had 20 years in between the two watches. So, yeah, a cat's off to you on that one.
Well, like I said, I just didn't know if I was missing something, like an important part. It was very choppy as the editing and putting together and stuff. So it was, for me, it was hard to follow, even though there wasn't essentially a storyline besides here's some teenagers, they go to a Catholic school, they find the devil, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I want to quote Mary Jane King, the only quote from the Stanford guy, it has to be the right person. So these are obviously out of high school, this gorgeous guy who's still a virgin, but the high school
he's still a virgin in 1996.
Still a virgin. Yeah. It has to be the right person. So thank you, Mary Jane. All right. Well, I guess we don't have quotes because there weren't any, and we don't have this.
You got to appreciate trying twice, though. I mean,
I did. I
that
tried.
Is tough. That is great.
Like, I just got nothing that I think, because sometimes things are witty. They would be witty, or they're funny, or you're like, that's a good one to repeat and quote it. No, just no, there wasn't. And I apologize for that.
I like to point out, I wanted to point out that this comment from Colin about why is the devil always hiding in Catholic schools. This is actually a trope, or a narrative trope, that is very popular, especially in the late 70s, where you start to see a lot of movies come out after the popularity of Carrie. You have Satan's School for Girls. We can do that. We can add that. We have the there's a string of them. The Spell, there's another one. There's a number of movies that come out in the 70s that are all about Satan and high school girls. So,
and, it actually is, it makes a lot of sense to me, because if he's hanging out with all of these high school girls, it's no wonder the devil went down to Georgia.
All right. All right, Jason, do we have the Mankey movie minute? Man, I heard it was a good one this week.
I'm really happy with this one. Which means probably no one will laugh at it because I was so excited about it. And Courtney's not here to cry, so it's already going to be anticlimactic.
This is not a crying movie.
All right, here we go. And now, random thoughts from a man forced to watch a movie he would have never had known existed if it wasn't for this show. It's 9:45 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and I've settled comfortably on my couch, my cat next to me, my fur baby just out of reach, as she often is, while still demanding pettings. The movie starts, and I am immediately transported back in time to 1996, as I wonder if the stream I am watching comes from a third-generation VHS tape. Even in the dark of my living room, it's hard to make out the action on the screen. Everything looks muddy and gray. I get up to adjust the tracking on the VCR, and then remember I am not watching a VCR, nor do I own a VCR in the year 2024. Despair creeps in. Little Witches has been playing on my television for all of 2 minutes and 24 seconds. It's now 9:50 p.m., and my wife is looking at me quizzically from across the living room. Is the movie coven making you watch porn? She asks. I tell her no, but she remains unconvinced. The background music that was playing definitely sounds like porno music, she says. She is not wrong, of course, but I do wonder why she knows so much about mid-90s adult film soundtracks. Little Witches has now been on my television for just 5 minutes and 16 seconds. As the movie clumsily moves along, I notice that there are only 7 characters in the entire film, despite my screen trying to make me believe there are more. Yes, sometimes there are additional bodies on the screen, but many of the young women in this film feel more like extras than characters. At the end of the film, I am surprised to find out that many of them actually had names. Who are the characters in this film, you might ask? Well, there is the good girl, the one who will probably do something with Jesus at the end of the film. There is also a bad girl, and we know she is bad because she performs a stripper routine in the front of the window of her dorm room. There are also 3 people who work at this church/boarding school. One of them is a super hot nun that I wish had performed a stripper routine in front of a window so that I might watch and know what it is to feel alive again. There is also a priest who likes to go fishing, and an older nun who seems to scare the schoolgirls because she owns a lot of crucifixes and enjoys eating alone. I am also delighted to find out that the demon in this film isn't a demon at all, but the gremlin Stripe from the movie Gremlins. I am glad to see him getting work. There is also a construction worker love interest whose real name is Tommy Stork. I like saying Tommy Stork. Every time I see this actor's character, I will say Tommy Stork out loud. Little Witches has now been on my television screen for 28 minutes and 42 seconds. While watching this film, I couldn't help but wonder what the other witches in the movie coven were thinking while they watched the film. In my head, I could see Richard-Lael starting and stopping the film 6 or 7 times while watching before finally giving up with 20 minutes left to go. Heather would, of course, be busy jotting down notes about how Little Witches is representative of Satanic Panic's final gasp and is unrepresentative of the witchcraft films of this new era in filmmaking. And Patti, oh Patti, she's such a trooper. Like me, there is no way she would turn this film off, but just like me, she's probably wondering if it is acceptable to drink a whole bottle of wine or to eat several edibles while watching this film. And poor Gigi sitting on their couch wondering just what they have got themselves into. Don't worry, Gigi. I often think that too. No doubt the rest of the coven would be thinking that I would be singing boobs and butts, boobs and butts, boobs and butts. And of course, I did. And then there's Courtney Buckley, the luckiest of us all, because she did not have to watch tonight's film. I envy her and her innocence. My innocence died the moment I began lusting after the super hot nun in this film. Little Witches has now been on my television screen for 45 minutes and 57 seconds. I sadly note to myself that the film is only halfway done. Despair etched upon my face, I girded myself for the ordeal yet to come.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Jason. You're going to need to make a book of movie quotes. I mean, movie minutes, Mankey's movie minutes.
We're all doing the book together. We're all going to have our bits, and those will just be put in there. And I save them all in a giant document, so they're preserved. You know, some of the jokes about Heather were meaner though, and I had to change them because I blamed her for me watching this movie. So, but I love Heather, so I can't say anything too mean.
Hey, you know what? Everybody has their choices, and I fill them in with when we don't have enough choices from all you guys to fill up the 365 or 52 weeks in a year. So I fill in all the other ones with other movies that may be of interest. And I like taking you down some dark roads sometimes.
I will say, though, I'm going to be giving lectures at festivals, though, and then I'm going to be like, and now Little Witches, 1996. Let me tell you about this film. So it's going to come in handy as much as I tease and joke. Yeah.
How many times have we said the Killing Tree since we watched The Killing Tree? It has come up. It has literally come up in conversation at witchy events. Oh, you've got to see The Killing Tree. Just saying.
That's such is the power of the Witches Movie Coven.
How little are these witches, though? Like when I think of little witches, I think of Wendy the Good Witch, who is ostensibly a little witch. Like she's literally a little witch. I even think of maybe the Munchkins and the Wizard of Oz. Those are not witches, but they're little. Even Time Bandits, they're little witches. But these are
not so little
girl. They're not little girls, and they're not short girls. They're not. I don't get it. Little witches,
little women, little witches, little women.
When I think of little witches, I think of 16-year-old strippers at Catholic schools. So it made perfect sense to me. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, next week, Xanadu. Xanadu, 1980. Everybody find it. Sorry, Lisa, you weren't able to find this one. It took me a long time. I had to get a link to YouTube to find the
Lisa,
one.
I'm glad you didn't find this one.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we have
enjoy the small victories, Lisa. That's
we
how
do
I
have
see
one
it.
more thing to do. Everybody, wands up, wands down.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Yeah, that's
This
a
is our
show
first
we had to
ever
break
almost unanimous thumbs down, isn't our wands down?
That's almost a unanimous wands down. Okay, wands neutral for Robert. Well, I said I didn't see. Mine is not this. Mine is this. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't hate it.
I guess I could do that because I did have fun with it back when it came out. I did enjoy it, but I don't think I enjoyed it as a movie.
Kelvin's got wands up and horns up. I understand that.
He must be singing boobs and butts while he's watching this movie.
Beautiful boobs, beautiful butts. Yeah. All right. So we're tending towards down on this one. Let's see what we do with Xanadu. Well, we have a couple seconds left. Anybody have anything they have coming up in the real near future we need to tell everybody about? Okay,
go ahead, Patti.
I'm leaving for Romania after next week's show. I'm so excited.
Yay!
Romania, and then a vampire party in Paris, and then Penhurst for all you Americans coming back, Penhurst Paracon, and then a whole witchy weekend in Dallas, Texas. All of that by the end of May. So go to my website, pattinegri.com. Thank you, producer Rob, for this beautiful layout of what's going on. So I'm going to be everywhere in the world, so you guys can come see me. And of course, my Witching Hour podcast and everything else going on. So that's all I'm doing. I'm leaving. Bye. Okay, Gigi.
Yes, I have lots on my schedule as well. I didn't pull it up to do things. I actually 2 weekends ago, I stayed in an old convent, so it kind of fit in with this. It was down in Niles, Michigan. We stayed there for the weekend. Lots of fun, lots of history. That's the stuff I like to go do on the weekends.
How conventional.
Yeah.
Is it your birthday, Gigi?
On Monday, on Earth Day. Yes, thank you. What's that?
We are not going to sing. We are never going to sing again. We will never sing again.
No.
Okay. All right. So thank you. Richard-Lael.
That is me. I am Richard-Lael. I am here in New Orleans. I do readings here in my haunted home. I do readings down in the French Quarter at Apothecary, where you can find me there. You can find me also, if you want to know magic, you can find me at University Magicus, magicu.org. And this week we're going to be talking about sigils and symbols and all kinds of wonderful things. And that is this Saturday. Oh goodness, I think it's 11 a.m. my time, so figure it out. That's what I do.
Thank you. UniversityMagicus.com, magic with a K, or magicu.org. And I'm teaching a puppets class next Tuesday, so that's great. So moving on, we teach all this witchy stuff at the school. So all right, Jason.
It's getting quiet for me, and I'm really excited about it to be home for a while. My next big event is the North Dakota Grand Sabbath in the bustling metropolis of Animus, North Dakota. And I was just in Tennessee last week for the Pagan Unity Festival. At home, I'm rapidly finishing up the Raymond Buckland biography, which you will see next May. I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. And Heather.
Well, I have, here's Gladys, and we are going to be attending Mystic South, and that's in July in Atlanta. It's gearing up. Where I'm really excited. I'm honored to be part of the board, and also going to be doing my haunted doll and puppet class. And Gladys might be making a live appearance along with lots of other dolls, my Annabelle and my Clarabelle, we call her Clarabelle, and some other ones. So come out to Atlanta to Mystic South and join us for our 3 days of witchy stuff. And other than that, I'm working with my wonderful authors every day, and which I love. And I'll some writing some articles.
Her dead eyes scare me.
Oh, they're beautiful.
They're not actually. They're just very dark, so you can't.
Her
They look
vacant
solid from
dead
the
eyes.
camera. She actually does not have
Oh.
dead eyes, right? She's
No, she's so pretty.
She's gonna haunt my dream. She and Robert are gonna like team up, and like it's gonna be Nightmare on Elm Street, except on the Oak Court where I live.
I'm looking forward to seeing our coven members. I know Robert Hicks says he's saying he's going to be there, so I'm looking forward to that. So
yay, Robert!
In Atlanta.
All right, we have one more thing to do before you all look for Xanadu next week, because it is time to cackle. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.